Thank you, Chairman, General, SAONS, Secretary. Thank you both for being here. If your staff's briefed you that I want to talk about algal blooms, as I'm sure all my colleagues know I want to talk about, then you're right. They were right to brief you about that. So last year, Word of 2022, we moved a provision that directed the Army Corps to put a note in the file of personnel working around structures on Lake Okeechobee that have high exposures to toxic algal blooms. So I want to get a little idea of where that's at, what that's looking like today. You got an image up here. This is what the lake looks like today, where you see all that red. That's where the wind pushes all those toxic algal blooms up into my area. So it is taking place as we speak, has been taking place throughout the summer already. So first question, just has implementation of denoting that in a file in some form or fashion begun?
Congressman Mast, thank you for that question. And I don't know if you planned it this way or it just worked out this way, but I did get a call last night from General Hibner, is that at Port Mayarca, Structure 308, we did have testing that exceeded 8 parts per billion for micro.
80, I was told, so 10x. 80 was the number I was told.
So my report was higher than that. And the first report, as you well know, is always wrong, but it certainly exceeded 8 parts per billion. So the Jacksonville District has put in place, as per Word of 22, Section 8141, that we will, for any worker that was at Port Mayarca, and I think there's only one there, we will document that in their records. In addition, as when you and I met there, I think 3 years ago now, measures to protect the employees, and that can include limiting outside exposure and masks when possible. We're also reporting that to the South Florida Water Management District, and we'll work with Mr. Bartlett and his team to see if we need to come out and do mitigation efforts.
It can be fluid which staff are out there, civilian, uniformed. Is the intent of the Corps of Engineers to do that for both civilian and uniformed personnel if they're...
Absolutely, and we're working through the procedures for medical privacy to make sure we do that correctly.
And give us an idea of would that look like a dosimeter would look like for somebody that had radiological exposure where it's added up over time, or would it be a letter for each day that somebody is exposed and it says, hey, you worked 8 hours today or 10 hours today, and it gives us an idea of what that would look, what it actually will look like in practice?
Right now, I believe it's going to look like a letter that goes in their file that documents that, but we're developing this as we go, and I'm sure we'll have some things to learn.
What would be a full day for somebody out there typically?
I believe those are 8-hour shifts.
Okay. All right. I thank you for the answers on that. It's good information to me to understand how you're actually implementing this. I want to move a little bit to earlier in the season, sticking with algal blooms. There were discharges going on out of Lake Okeechobee to the coastline. It was going on back in February. It was going on, I think, even in part in January. But those discharges were stopped because of untraditionally early season algal blooms. I can't remember seeing them in January, February, March before. And so I thank the Corps and the South Florida Water Management District for working together to stop those discharges when algal blooms became present. The question that I want to ask you might seem obvious, but it's obvious because I'm looking to have an answer on the record of why this took place. Why did the Corps and the Water Management District stop those discharges, whether they were at 8 parts per billion or 80 or whatever the level was at that time? Why was that decision made to stop those discharges at that time? What did you consider the impacts to be that you said, hey, it's important enough that we stop these or stop these until we test them or whatever reason? Walk me through that decision making so the community can understand the hazards.
So, Congressman Mast, I don't know the specifics on that instance. I was aware that we were discharging east, and my understanding sitting here today is that the pause or the stopping those discharges east was mainly a water management decision. But I'm not 100% certain that it wasn't that at S308 there were those algal blooms and they didn't want to release them. So
I'm going to pause you because I got about 10 seconds left. I appreciate that I don't think it was for water management reasons. I think it was because of the presence of those blooms. We're going to write you some questions for the record. If you could get back to us with answers on that decision-making process at a later time.
Absolutely.
We'd appreciate those answers. Thank you, Chairman. I can't yield you back anytime, but thank you for recognizing me. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe. I will be back on YouTube with more exclusive content, so stay tuned.